Ace isn't having a great night. It'd be a stretch to say he'd had a great week, month, year, decade, or life. That's why he figured a little stint in Sin City might be the perfect thing to blow the cobwebs away. In the last 12 months, he'd been laid off at the job where he'd given 15 years of service. His wife, also of 15 years, had left him for the very boss that had fired him from that company, who also just so happened to be younger, more handsome, and better off financially. Oh, and a few days ago, his pet spaniel had been sent on an express trip to the pearly gates by a Mack truck while chasing after a rogue frisbee. But even in the deep mire of misfortune, Ace had hope. He'd always wanted a weekend in Las Vegas, but he could never get the time off work, or his wife didn't like the idea of him going, and he could never find someone to look after his dog while he was gone. Now, none of those would be a problem anymore, so he could live it up in Vegas like he'd always dreamed. And boy, using the last of his severance package, he certainly did so. He tried his hand as a high roller at the big boy roulette tables in Caesar's Palace. He attended the Siegfried and Roy show. Oh, I don't think we mentioned this all happened back in the early 1990s. He lived large off of the exorbitant buffets, drank his weight in overpriced Vegas booze, and even spent some time in the company of ladies who liked to, well, let's just say, put on the red light. But they wouldn't be the only ones putting on the red light this weekend. In fact, the whole city, lit up with millions of lumens of artificial glow, seemed to take an odd red hue. Like even in this legendary mecca for debauchery, there was still somehow deeper for the whole thing to sink. And it certainly could sink, straight down, to the fourth circle of hell. Ace's luck changed when he met a strange, pale man in one of the casino lounges, dressed in a fine suit. He couldn't tell whether it was just the results of the various substances that he'd imbibed, but he could swear the man had a weird smell around him, like something burning, and also a strange and highly striking deformity. Growths that looked like two small, curved horns on the man's forehead. But the man certainly spoke a good game. In fact, the man's words were downright mesmerizing, as he offered him a sweet deal on a high-stakes game of poker. If Ace won, he got everything back: his wife, his job, and his sweet little dog. If he lost, well, the stranger would get Ace's immortal soul. Fair deal, right? In his intoxicated state, Ace certainly thought so. It's not like souls were real anyway. The problem was, just as all the substances he'd consumed had impaired his judgment, it also impaired his poker-playing skills. Soon enough, he had lost badly, and the pale, horned stranger wasn't interested in going for best of three. What seemed like a joke at first didn't feel so funny when the ground started rumbling, when the cracks and fissures opened up, spilling out terrible, searing light from somewhere deep and terrible down below. And then the chains, half glowing with heat, and the parts of them that weren't black and wet and covered in long, serrated barbs, they wrapped around Ace's body, enveloping him, the sudden pain too intense for him to even scream. He just gave a choked gasp as the shock pushed the last gust of air out of his lungs. And then he was dragged into the ground, because Las Vegas is a city where fortune often changes, sometimes from bad to so much worse. But this isn't a story about a demon loose in Las Vegas. No, it's a story of tens of thousands of them spilling through the streets, feeding on the inherent Tartarean Resonance Energy produced by man's darkest desires and most shameful misdeeds. And there's nobody better to deal with this than the fine folks at the SCP Foundation. But for once, up against an entire city filled with both powerful demons and human civilians that they neither want to hurt nor expose to the anomalies, they may have met their match. You'll just have to keep watching and see what happens, won't you? Between January 12th and January 16th, 1992, the Foundation became aware of the massive quantity of demons somehow inhabiting Las Vegas. They also had the frightening realization that the number of demons in question seemed to be reaching critical mass. So much so that not only were the levels of Tartarean Resonance Energy off the map, they were also seeing Hume levels spike downwards. This was always a concerning matter, as it meant that the very nature of reality itself was starting to bend and contort. If they didn't deal with this quickly, they'd be looking at a full reality collapse scenario. Field agents were dispatched to the city when this frightening Class event was first dinged in the Foundation system. And they soon realized that even from casual observation, things were far worse on the ground than they first imagined. Horned demons were cavorting everywhere, committing various debauched activities that are, in some cases, so intense that we can't even cover them here. And the strangest part was that the humans among them didn't even really seem to mind. When field agents attempted to interview them, they found them to be strangely lethargic subjects, bored, confused, almost distracted. They didn't want to have to talk to these boring suits about all these details. They were in Vegas, baby. It was time for gambling, partying, and other generally sinful activities. And by Satan, the demons around them were loving every minute of it. The whole thing was becoming a feedback loop of epic proportions. The more demons arrived, the more they influenced humans to sin. The more Tartarean Resonance Energy they produced, and the more demons arrived to feed on that. Like a satanic greenhouse effect. As the Hume levels continued to plummet and Las Vegas fused more and more with the fourth circle of hell, that's the greed circle for anyone who hasn't read the cliff notes of Dante's Inferno, huge, ill-defined shapes started to appear in the desert. They were gargantuan demonic entities who feel like they'd been summoned to an all-you-can-sin buffet and were slowly moving towards the city. It was time for the Foundation to up its game. An elite team was formed to act as the primary incident committee, formed of Applied Force liaison Joseph Kurtz, Occult Sciences senior researcher Randall House, HMCL supervisor Lee Thompson, and large-scale containment specialist Yusuf Ali. With a case this large and potentially catastrophic, they'd need to focus on trying to re-establish normalcy first and worry about containment second. While they considered their deeper courses of action, a mobile task force, MTF Omega-18, also known as Patriots, were given the task of infiltrating the cursed city and establishing an operational command center on the inside. No easy feat, in a major city absolutely crawling with demonic entities and drunk morons. But with a convoy of armored vehicles and helicopters on their side, it seemed like they had the right stuff. As the Patriots convoy entered the strip via the Beltway, they soon found opposition from demons, using broken bottles, blunt objects, and the nasty flames from their limited pyromancy ability. While the Foundation was equipped with guns that had blessed bullets, lethal to most demonic entities, there were too many civilians mixed in amongst the crowds to risk spraying and praying. So helicopters descended, dropping large buckets of holy water over the strip to ward off the demons. After a light skirmish, the Patriots were able to get a grip on the MGM Grand Hotel to act as the Foundation's Sin City foothold, complete with a command center for the next stages of this vital mission. In order to stop the situation from spiraling rapidly out of control, several mobile task forces donated members and resources to assist in the effort. In order to get a more focused attack on the source of all these horrors, a smaller, more targeted squad was also put together and sent into the city, featuring Applied Force liaison Joseph Kurtz and Occultic Sciences senior researcher Randall House. Putting his occult knowledge to good use, House had discovered that the epicenter of all this madness seemed to be coming from beneath Caesar's palace. If they had any hope of restoring normalcy before Las Vegas literally went to hell, it was down there. The larger battalions of mobile task force operatives battled demons in the streets. Some who'd grown so powerful from the quantities of Tartarean Resonance Energy that they'd become veritable holy bullet sponges. Meanwhile, the mission team with Kurtz and House slipped into the city and descended into the basement of Caesar's palace, which, as it turned out, was the nexus point for a vast series of infernal tunnels. However, not everything was all fire and brimstone. As they descended deeper and deeper into the tunnels, they found a surprising sight. A classy Art Nouveau elevator. Traveling up to the top floor using said elevator revealed a luxurious suite, the kind that Vegas casinos typically only reserve for their most wealthy and hopelessly addicted high rollers, overlooking the reddening lights of the entire city. And in that suite was a mysterious figure, wearing a bathrobe and a top hat, sipping from a dainty little teacup. You wouldn't know just from looking at him that he was a god of death, one of the most powerful beings in the cosmology of the Roman Empire, Pluto, the steward of the underworld. And, as it turned out, the CEO of the Caesars Palace Casino. He revealed a truly strange series of secrets. That Las Vegas itself had been founded by demons centuries ago, specifically libertarian demons trying to escape the exorbitant tax rate levied against the denizens of hell. In a way, it was the perfect hub of human sin, a place where, with a little demonic influence, the human race could be encouraged to act out all of its darkest desires and feed demons not only their money, but almost limitless Tartarean Resonance Energy in the process. You had to admit, it was a pretty airtight plot, all things considered. But one unlikely hero was willing to step up to the plate and risk it all, by which we mean everyone in the entire city and even his own soul, to potentially save the world. It wasn't one of the soldiers trained to lay down their lives for the good of humanity. No, it was Randall House, the occult researcher. He challenged Pluto to a wager, something demons historically have a really hard time resisting. If House won, he got Caesar's palace. If Pluto won, he got the whole city and House's very own soul. Pluto rejected House's assertion that the wager should be fought over a game of Magic the Gathering. So instead, they settled on the classic game of blackjack, the battle of choice for a real gambler's gambler. And with everything to play for, the battle was a tense one. A demon card dealer even appeared to help mediate the game and keep things fair. Cards were dealt, and dealt, and dealt, until Pluto went bust, and House won the game. Being a god of his word, Pluto fled, taking thousands of demons bound to his will with him. Caesar's palace now belonged to House and the SCP Foundation. With this many demons removed, the Hume levels rose back to normal. The day had been saved, all thanks to one superb gambling trick from researcher House. He bribed the dealer with $10,000 from the Foundation budget. Hey, if taxes in hell are really that bad, House reasoned that 10 grand was a lot of money no matter what side of the Earth's crust you chose to hang your hat on. And on that superb gamble, he went home with the entire pot. By 1992's end, the SCP Foundation had thankfully gotten a foothold in Sin City, having used House's devious wind to establish Site-666, a giant pyramidal structure given the harmless cover of being the Luxor Las Vegas casino. In fact, it serves two far more delicate purposes. The first is a scientific matter. The entire building is not just a Foundation site, but an active machine. The House Nicholas Theoplanar Vacuum Unit, designed by the site director Randall House himself. This machine satisfies the primary containment condition to prevent a full collapse of the city of Las Vegas into the fourth circle of hell, siphoning up the immense quantity of Tartarean Resonance Energy to keep reality in its proper place. The waste products are converted into alpha radiation and fired up harmlessly into the sky. It appears to the people around the city like a simple beam of light, advertising any other garish, light-polluting building out on the literally godforsaken strip. The other purpose of Site-666 is, naturally, as a base for specifically selected Foundation personnel deemed fit to take up the mantle of fighting the literal forces of the underworld. People with immense bravery, with the quality of temperance to avoid all the temptation going on around them. And of course, being at least a little spiritual certainly doesn't hurt. Of course, the demonic presence in the city holds plenty of power. The most powerful demonic casino owners have consolidated their vast sum of wealth and resources, forming the Nevada Gaming Commission. They rule over the dark art of gambling in Las Vegas with a tightly clenched brimstone fist. Only the mere humans of the SCP Foundation stationed at Site-666 can hold back their endless avarice. And if you're one of the debatably lucky people that the Foundation does decide is up to the task of keeping Las Vegas from truly going south, you may just wake up to the following highly classified email waiting for you in your inbox one day. You have received this email because you have been selected to be relocated to Site-666, located in Las Vegas, Nevada. No, this is not some cheeky off-site celebration. There will be alcohol. There will be gambling. There will be sin, but not for you. You've been picked to make sure what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You will be dealing with demons, both literal and metaphorical. You'll be firing bullets blessed in factories, bathing in mass-produced holy water, and researching things that the Vatican would rather you not know. Vegas is called Sin City for a reason. We are in their home, but that doesn't mean we have to bow to them. With all that in mind, there is really only one rule in Under Vegas. The house always wins. Now check out SCP-4840, the Flying City of Autodopodopolis, and SCP-5049, the Skin Salesman, Demon Dan's Discount Homunculus Depot, for more.